Welcome to the third and final module about Standard 2, Curriculum and Instruction. If you have not already reviewed the first two modules, please do those first. In the module previous to this one, we covered the first four components of Standard 2. And in this one, we're going to look at the clinic and fieldwork requirements, externship requirements, as well as learning and library resources. So the clinic requirements have been designed to allow for a wide variety of clinic experiences. There's a lot of different ways you can put your clinic together and to meet your needs and to meet your mission and objectives, as long as they conform to the following. It must be its own distinct course. That means it has to have its own syllabus with its own learning objectives, grade, and evaluation methods. It can be scheduled in an integrated way, perhaps with another course, but it should have clear in these areas. And clinic is defined when students are working on members of the general public, not their classmates. That's considered lab time in class and would not count toward clinic hours. However you set up your clinic, whether it's a permanent facility that's always ongoing or it's temporary, you do it certain times during the year, it should model professional procedures. So students are getting the most real-world practical experience that they can within meeting your objectives of the course. And do keep in mind that it is considered a learning experience. It is a course, so the students must be supervised and evaluated by qualified faculty. It's not independent practice. The length of your clinic can be no more than 25% of the total hours of your program. COMTA commissioners have not set a minimum amount of requirements, but they have provided some recommendations in the clinic guidelines document that you can use. Essentially, the minimum hours should meet your objectives, and you demonstrate how it does so. Fieldwork is also part of this standard. Fieldwork is when you and your students go off-site to certain events. So it does need to be supervised. If students are working unsupervised, it cannot count as clinic or fieldwork hours. And as mentioned, there is a clinic guidelines document which provides more instruction and help in determining your clinic compliance. Externships. Now, externships are not a required part of COMTA accredited programs, but if you do offer them, either as an elective or as a requirement, they must meet this standard to Section F. But before we get into the requirements, let's look at the definition to just make sure that we're understanding the terms externship in the way the Commission has defined it. It's a planned learning experience with clients in which the students learn how to use the knowledge and practice the skills taught in the classroom. So it does have to be planned, not just extra practice hours. However, it's different than a clinic and an internship in that it's done away from the central classroom building. So it's an off-site experience. And it's not considered field work because in this case, the supervisor is not a member of the institution or program faculty. Instead, though, they do need to be supervised by someone who's licensed and a practitioner in the field. So that's this definition is found in our definition of terms for more details. So if you do have an externship, again, it's not required, but if you do, it must meet these following requirements. Again, it has to be its own distinct course with its own syllabus, objectives, grade, and evaluation methods. It must be above and beyond the minimum 600 hours. So it can't be within 600 hours, but if you have a program that's over 600 hours, you can include an externship, but it still should be less than 20% of the entire total. There should be written agreements between the externship site and the school. So this is where it gets into being a planned activity, and these written agreements define the expectations of everybody. The students are supervised by an on-site supervisor who is licensed, and the student is evaluated by the on-site supervisor as well as the faculty coordinator helps put together a final grade for the course. So that is the externship requirements. The final piece of Standard 2 is the library learning resources. Now, the library or learning resources that you offer the size and scope of them can be comparable to the size and scope of your school. But all post-secondary institutions must have a library and or learning resource center in some respect. And you'll notice that the library and learning resource standard is now included in curriculum and instruction because the emphasis is on learning resources which are incorporated into the curriculum and support the research curriculum competency and serve as reference material for practical work and clinic. So there's more emphasis on using these learning resources in the curriculum and assisting students in meeting the objectives, and less emphasis on the library being a physical location. Instead, how are they used? It's not just about throwing books on a shelf, it's about using them. So there are certain requirements. The learning library resources should support the program objectives, and in doing so, it's more than a physical location. Please note that there can be an off-site library being used for your students, but that all students must be guaranteed access, and we recommend that you contact COMTA staff for more information on that. Students must have access to the library, and they must be trained in using the resources. You may include hard copy and or virtual resources. Virtual resources are becoming more important, and those are important to note. And they do need to be integrated into the curriculum and instruction of the program. So more information will be found in your following course lessons. I hope you are able to answer any questions that you have right now in those lessons. If not, please feel free to contact the COMTA office via email or phone. Thank you and enjoy the lesson.